Welcome to our deep dive, everyone. Today we're going to be taking a deep dive into something that's probably a part of your everyday life even more than you realize, and that is sugar.
Oh, yeah.
But we're going way beyond the sweet treats, folks. We're going to be uncovering sugar's hidden depths, its potential downsides, and why it might be more powerful than you think.
Sugar, it's true, has a pretty fascinating story, and we're going to explore it today. Sugar, the unrecognized drug.
Okay, that title definitely piques my interest. It sounds a bit like a thriller movie, honestly. What is this document all about?
Well, it makes a very provocative argument, basically, that the food industry has some clever strategies that they use to get us all hooked on sugar, and a lot of us, a lot of people, end up reacting, get this, like addicts.
Like addicts. Wow. Okay, that's a strong comparison. Is it really that serious?
This document, it really drives home those parallels. It compares our behavior around sugar to junkies who are constantly craving more and more while kind of downplaying their dependence. And they claim that the industry, they design products that keep us wanting more and more sugar, almost like a cycle we can't break.
That's a little unsettling, honestly. Makes you wonder how much control we actually have over our food choices. But how do they actually get us hooked? I mean, it can't just be because sugar tastes good, right?
Well, taste is definitely a factor, but it is much more complex than that. So this document points out that the sheer volume of calorie-rich food that is produced in the U.S., get this, is enough for every single American to consume 3,900 calories every day.
3,900 calories. That's almost double what most adults even need. I can't even
Wow.
imagine trying to eat that much food. So what is behind this calorie overload? Is it all the fat in our diets?
Surprisingly, no. The real culprit, the real driver, is sugar. And this is where the food industry gets, really strategic. Think about all those low-fat labels that you see on products everywhere. They make us think that we're choosing healthy options.
Oh yeah, I have fallen for the low-fat trap so many times. You think you're making a smart decision, and then bam,
Yeah.
realize it's packed with sugar instead. It's like the sneaky swap.
Exactly. And from the industry's perspective, it's really clever. Sugar is so cheap to produce, which means that they can increase their profits by using more of it. So the more sugar, the lower their cost, and guess what? The higher their earnings.
So they're essentially incentivized to make us crave more sugar. Huh. That raises some interesting, ethical questions about how our food system is structured.
hmm
But why does eating all this sugar lead us to overeat in the first place? I don't get it.
Well, think about it this way. Foods and drinks that are just loaded with sugar, they provide a ton of calories, but they don't actually make you feel full.
Right.
It's like empty calories that just kind of disappear into a void.
It's like when you guzzle down a 1,000-calorie soda, and then you still feel like you could eat a whole meal afterward. It's almost like your brain doesn't even register the sugar as actual food.
You hit the nail on the head. And that's why it is so easy to just consume way more calories than we need from sugar. And as we all know, those extra calories, well, they can lead to weight gain, which, as we know, is a lot harder to reverse, than it is to gain in the first place.
Yeah, that makes sense. So we're talking about empty calories and a lack of fullness. Okay, but how much sugar are we really consuming on a daily basis? I have a feeling it's more than we think.
Get ready for this one. The average person consumes the equivalent of 31 teaspoons of sugar per day.
31 teaspoons.
Yeah.
Seriously, wow, I never would have guessed it was that much. I mean, where is all that sugar hiding? Is it like in everything?
Well, that's what we're about to uncover. And those 31 teaspoons, by the way, they add up to about 500 extra calories every single day.
Every day.
The real kicker is that those calories, they come with zero nutritional value. Absolutely zero. No vitamins, no minerals, no fiber, nothing. Just pure empty calories.
So we're being tricked into consuming this huge amount of sugar that doesn't even benefit our bodies. It's like we're unknowingly signing up for a bad deal.
That's one way to look at it. And it gets even more complicated, unfortunately, because the food industry has this whole arsenal of sneaky names that they use to kind of disguise sugar on ingredient lists. Instead of seeing sugar, you might see mace syrup, HFCS, fructose, lactose, dextrose, glucose syrup.
Wait, so all those are just fancy names for sugar? That seems awfully misleading.
You're right. It's a way to make it sound less alarming and make you think that you're not consuming as much sugar as you actually are. But perhaps even more alarming is the fact that sugar is hiding in places you'd never expect. It's everywhere.
Like where? Please tell me my pasta sauce is safe.
I hate to break it to you, but pasta sauce is a common culprit. Sugar can be found in ketchup, in salad dressings, processed meats, and countless other everyday foods that you wouldn't even associate with sweetness.
Okay, I'm starting to feel a little paranoid now. It seems like sugar is everywhere. So if I start reading labels religiously, like I become a label reading fanatic and I just avoid all those sneaky names, I'll be in the clear, right? I'll be good.
Not quite. Even if you're a label reading pro, the amounts of sugar can be very deceptive. Take a can of soda, for instance.
Okay.
It typically contains 40 grams of sugar.
40 grams. That doesn't sound too terrible.
But here's the thing. That's equal to 10 teaspoons of sugar. Just imagine someone, casually dumping 10 teaspoons of sugar into their coffee.
Okay, that is a visual I can't unsee.
Yeah.
Suddenly 40 grams doesn't seem so harmless anymore. So they're hiding sugar under different names and then tricking us with these seemingly small numbers. What other tricks do they have up their sleeves? I'm scared to know.
Well, remember how we talked about low-fat products? When manufacturers remove fat from things like cookies and dressings, they often need to, replace the flavor that's lost. And what do they use? You guessed it, sugar.
Ah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
They just load it up with sugar and often salt too. And they're creating these supposedly healthier options that are just as calorie dense as the original.
Exactly. And it's not just cookies and dressings. They use this tactic in a wide range of products. It's all about keeping that, taste and texture that we've come to expect.
So we end up consuming the same amount of calories just in a different form. It's like a sugar shell game. Are there any other, unexpected sources of sugar that we should be aware of?
Oh, there are plenty. For example, you might think that bread is a healthy choice, but some industrial breads are primarily sugar and eggs, along with white flour, which has its own set of issues.
Sugar and bread. Ugh, I feel so betrayed. I always thought of bread as like a wholesome staple. This is rough.
And even seemingly savory snacks like potato chips and protein bars can be loaded with sugar. Those protein bars that are, they're marketed as healthy and convenient can pack a whopping 300 calories and a sugar overload. It's crazy.
Okay, this is really starting to change my perception of the food that I eat, but I'm still trying to understand why we're so drawn to this stuff. I mean, is it really as addictive as this document claims? Can sugar really be compared to drugs? I'm still not convinced.
Well, this document actually cites a study from the American College of Neuropsychopharmacology, and it might surprise you. They found that sugar triggers similar brain responses as drugs like, get this, morphine, cocaine, and nicotine.
Whoa, seriously, that's pretty mind-blowing. Sugar's messing with our brains just like hard drugs. So our love for sugar isn't really a choice. We're basically programmed to crave it.
In a way, yeah. Think about it. With most addictive substances, like alcohol or cigarettes, we make a conscious choice to try them at a certain age.
Right.
But sugar is introduced so much earlier, often in infancy.
That's true. Babies are given sugary teas, sweet baby food, and all sorts of sweet treats. It's like we're setting them up for a lifelong struggle with sugar from the very beginning.
Yeah, it's like we're training their developing palates to crave sweetness. And that early exposure can create a really high tolerance for sweetness, which, can make the natural sugars and fruits seem bland in comparison.
That's fascinating. It makes you wonder how different our taste preferences would be if we weren't exposed to such high levels of sugar,
Yeah.
early on. So the food industry is essentially capitalizing on our pre-programmed cravings and our lack of awareness, all to keep us coming back for more.
Unfortunately, that is the case. And while they're profiting from our addiction, well, our health is paying the price.
It sounds like a vicious cycle, and we're caught in the middle. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground about, sugar's hidden presence and its potential for addiction. But what happens when we're constantly bombarded with sugar from, such a young age? What are the long-term effects on our health? That's what I'm wondering.
That's a crucial question, and we'll definitely delve into that next.
Stay tuned, folks.
Welcome back to our deep dive into the often hidden world of sugar.
I have to admit, I'm still processing everything we've uncovered so far.
Yeah.
It's just amazing how something so common can have such a complex story,
It really is. But remember, knowledge is power. The more we understand about sugar's effects, the better choices we can make for ourselves.
Absolutely. So where do we go from here? I mean, we've talked about the problem, the sneaky tactics, the health risks, but what can we actually do to, break free from sugar's hold? It all feels a bit overwhelming, to be honest.
That's a great question and a very common one.
Yeah.
The answer isn't as simple as just cutting out all sugar overnight. It's more like a journey, and there are different, steps that we can take along the way to reduce our sugar intake and break free from that addictive grip.
Okay, that sounds a little bit more manageable.
Yeah.
I'm all for a good challenge, but cold turkey just seems a bit intense given how much sugar seems to be in, like
Yeah.
everything.
You're right. It's about finding what works for you. And one of the most effective places to start is by becoming aware of the hidden sugars that are in our everyday foods.
Okay, yeah. We touched on that earlier. Reading labels, watching out for those sneaky names like may syrup and dextrose, like a sugar detective game.
Exactly. But it's, more than just checking ingredient lists. We need to be thinking about how sugar is being used in different types of foods. It's not just about avoiding the obvious culprits like candy and soda.
Right, right.
Yeah, we need to be aware of the sugar that's hiding in like seemingly healthy options. It's like sugar is wearing a disguise.
That's a great way to put it. For example, you might think you're making a healthy choice by picking a low-fat yogurt, but so many of those are just loaded with sugar to make up for the lack of fat.
There's that sneaky low fat trap again. It's like it's everywhere. So how do we navigate this tricky landscape? Any tips for becoming better sugar detectives? Well, one helpful tip is to pay close attention to serving sizes. Food labels, they list the amount of sugar per serving, but those serving sizes can be surprisingly small.
Oh yeah, who only eats half a cup of yogurt? Not me.
Yeah,
It's easy to just eat way more than you realize, which means you're also consuming more sugar, too.
exactly. So it's not just about looking at the grams of sugar, but also understanding, how much you're actually eating. It's all about context.
Okay, that makes sense. So read labels carefully, be mindful of serving sizes, watch out for those low-fat claims. Got it. What else can we do to reduce our sugar intake?
Another really important step is to start replacing sugary drinks with healthier options.
Like water?
Water is fantastic, always a good choice. You can also try unsweetened tea, sparkling water, or even like homemade fruit-infused water. It's a fun way to add some natural flavor.
Oh, I love sparkling water. It's so refreshing.
Yeah.
Plus, no added sugar. What about juice? Isn't that a healthy option because it's made from fruit?
Well, while fruit juice does have some nutrients, it's also very high in sugar, even if it's 100% fruit juice.
Really? But it's natural sugar, so isn't that okay?
Yes, it is natural, but the juicing process actually removes all the fiber from the fruit. So what you're left with is basically just a very concentrated dose of sugar that can really spike your blood sugar levels.
Ah, so even though it's natural, too much fruit juice can still be a problem. It's all about balance, I guess.
Exactly. If you do choose to drink juice, just opt for smaller portions and consider diluting it with some water.
Okay.
And what about those fancy coffee drinks? I have a feeling those are sugar bombs in
Oh,
disguise.
you're not wrong. Many of them are loaded with sugar, syrups, and whipped cream. It's like turning a simple cup of coffee into a calorie-laden dessert.
That's a great way to think about it.
Yeah.
If you want a healthier coffee, stick to the basics, black coffee or with a splash of milk. And if you need some sweetness, try adding a natural sweetener like stevia or even just a dash of cinnamon.
I love cinnamon. It's so warm and comforting. Okay, we've covered drinks. What about meals? Any tips for reducing sugar in our main courses?
One really helpful strategy is to just cook more meals at home using fresh, whole ingredients. That way you just have more control over what's going into your food.
That makes a lot of sense. The more control we have, the less added sugar we'll be consuming.
Exactly. And when you cook at home, you can experiment with different herbs and spices and just flavor combinations. You can create these delicious and satisfying meals without relying on sugar.
Yeah, time to dust off those cookbooks and get creative in the kitchen. What about when we're eating out? It just seems almost impossible to avoid sugar at restaurants.
It can be tricky, but it's not impossible. One tip is to check the menu online beforehand and look for dishes that are grilled, baked, or steamed.
Okay.
Those are usually better choices than dishes that are fried or covered in, sugary sauces.
So basically, avoid anything that sounds super sweet or drenched in sauce.
That's a good rule of thumb. You can also ask your server about the ingredients and how the dishes are prepared. And don't be afraid to make special requests, like asking for your dressing on the side or for a dish without added sugar.
I never thought about asking for no added sugar at a restaurant. Seems so obvious now.
You'd be surprised how accommodating many restaurants are willing to be, especially if you explain that you're trying to reduce your sugar intake.
That's great. I'm feeling more empowered already. So we've talked about drinks, meals, cooking at home, eating out. Is there anything else we can do to kind of, kick our sugar habit? It just seems like it's more than just our diets.
You're right. It's also important to think about the emotional and psychological factors that contribute to our sugar cravings. Sometimes it's not just about physical hunger.
You mean emotional eating? Yeah, I've definitely been guilty of that. Stress, boredom, sadness. All roads seem to lead to the cookie jar for me.
It's a very common coping mechanism. But the key is to try to find healthier ways to manage those emotions without turning to sugar for comfort. It's about finding new tools for our emotional toolbox.
Easier said than done. Any suggestions for how to start?
Well, mindfulness practices like meditation and yoga can be incredibly helpful. They can help us manage stress and become more aware of our emotional triggers.
I've been hearing a lot about mindfulness lately. Maybe it's time to give it a try. But what about those times when we just need a little treat?
Hmm.
Is there any way to indulge our sweet tooth without completely derailing our progress?
Of course. Remember those natural sweeteners we talked about before?
Ah,
Stevia, yacon syrup, luohanguo.
yep, they're the good guys, right?
Exactly. These natural sweeteners can be used to make healthier versions of your favorite treats. You can use them to sweeten smoothies, to make homemade energy bars, or even bake delicious desserts that are lower in sugar and calories.
That's fantastic. So we can still enjoy those sweet treats, but just in a more mindful and balanced way. It's not about deprivation. It's about making, conscious choices.
I love that. It's not about saying no to sugar altogether. It's about saying yes to a healthier and more balanced lifestyle.
Exactly. It's a journey, not a destination.
Mhm.
And every small step we take towards reducing our sugar intake is a step in the right direction.
That's the spirit. And remember, you're not alone in this journey. There are tons of resources available to support you, from books and websites to communities and health professionals.
That's reassuring to know. It's always easier to make changes when you have a support system in place.
Absolutely. And trust me, the benefits of reducing your sugar intake are well worth the effort.
I'm starting to believe that. We've covered so much ground today. From the sneaky tactics of the food industry to the hidden sugars lurking in our everyday foods, and even the emotional side of sugar cravings. It's a lot.
We've also explored some practical strategies for reducing our sugar intake, from reading labels and cooking at home to finding healthier alternatives to our favorite treats.
Yeah. And most importantly, I think we've shifted our perspective a bit. We're not powerless against sugar. We actually have the power to make choices that support our health and well-being. It's pretty empowering.
It really is. It's been an incredible journey so far, and we're not even done yet.
That's right. We still have more to explore in our deep dive into the world of sugar. Stay tuned for part 3, where we'll uncover even more fascinating insights and practical tips. We'll be back after a short break. Welcome back, Sugar Sleuths. We've journeyed, I feel like, so deep into the world of sugar. We're uncovering its hidden depths and its tricky relationship with our bodies and our brains.
Yeah.
We've explored its sneaky presence in our food, and we've even armed ourselves with some strategies to kind of help us fight those cravings.
It's been quite an adventure, but knowledge is power. And I think we're all feeling a bit more empowered to take control of our choices around sugar.
I know I am. But now I'm curious, what actually happens to our bodies when we start cutting back on sugar? Is it all sunshine and roses, or is there like a rough patch we need to prepare for?
That is a great question. It's not always easy, especially at first.
Yeah.
You might actually experience some withdrawal symptoms as your body adjusts to a lower sugar intake.
Withdrawal symptoms. Okay, now I'm a little nervous. What kind of sugar detox horrors await?
Don't worry, it's not as dramatic as it sounds. You might just feel a bit more tired than usual or maybe have some headaches. Some people even experience mood swings for a little while. It's like your body's going through a bit of a reset.
So sugar withdrawal is a real thing. It's not just like something people say to scare you off dessert.
Well, it's definitely real, but it's usually temporary and manageable. The good news is that those cravings will lessen as your body adapts. And even better, you'll start to feel, truly amazing.
Okay, that makes me feel better. What kind of amazing were we talking about here? What are some of the benefits that we can look forward to when we start, ditching sugar? Paint me a picture.
Well, one of the first things you'll likely notice is increased energy levels. Remember how we talked about those sugar highs and crashes?
Oh, yeah.
When you stabilize your blood sugar by reducing your sugar intake, you will feel more energized and just more focused throughout the day.
No more afternoon slumps. I can definitely get behind that. What else?
You know, a lot of people actually see improvements in their skin.
Oh, really?
Sugar can contribute to inflammation and breakouts, so reducing your intake can lead to a clearer, healthier complexion.
Goodbye, sugar-induced pimples. Hello, glowing skin. This is sounding better and better. Are there any other benefits we should mention? I'm excited to hear more.
You might also notice improvements in your sleep. Cutting back on sugar can help regulate your, sleep-wake cycle, which can mean better quality sleep.
Sign me up. No more tossing and turning all night. Okay, more energy, better
Yeah.
skin, better sleep. What's not to love?
Exactly. And it doesn't stop there. Reducing your sugar intake can also have a really positive impact on your mood. Remember how we talked about sugar's effect on brain chemistry?
Uh-huh.
Well, stabilizing your blood sugar can help improve your mood stability and even reduce feelings of anxiety.
So less sugar equals a happier, calmer me.
Yeah.
I'm definitely on board with that. This
Yeah.
is all sounding pretty incredible. But, let's be realistic here. It's not always easy to resist those sugary temptations. What can we do, when those cravings hit hard? How do we fight back?
Well, it's all about having a plan. First, try to identify your triggers.
Yeah.
What situations or emotions kind of make you reach for those sugary treats?
Yeah.
Once you know your triggers, you can start to develop strategies to deal with them. It's like you're outsmarting those cravings.
So if I know that, like, stress makes me crave cookies, I can find, like, healthier ways to manage my stress, like maybe going for a walk or doing some yoga. It's about replacing a bad habit with a good one.
Exactly. And another helpful strategy is to keep healthy snacks on hand. When a craving hits, having a nutritious and satisfying, alternative can really prevent you from reaching for that sugary stuff.
Okay, like what? Give me some examples. What are your go-to snacks when those sugar cravings hit?
Well, I always like to keep things like fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, or even just like a small portion of plain yogurt with some berries on hand.
Okay, those all sound pretty good. But what if I'm really craving something sweet?
Hmm.
Is there any hope for my sweet tooth?
Of course. Remember, it's not about deprivation. It's about finding healthier ways to satisfy those cravings. And that's where those natural sweeteners we talked about earlier can really come in handy.
I knew you were going to say that. Stevia, yakan syrup, luohangguo, those are our secret weapons.
Exactly. They're a great way to add some sweetness without all those, without all the negative effects of sugar. You could try baking with them. There's so many, delicious and healthy dessert recipes out there that will satisfy your sweet tooth without the sugar overload.
So we can still have our cake and eat it too, just in a more, mindful and balanced way.
Precisely. It's all about finding that sweet spot. And here's another tip. Don't be afraid to experiment with different flavors. Sometimes a craving for something sweet is actually just a craving for something flavorful. Try adding spices like cinnamon, nutmeg, or cardamom to your food. You'd be surprised how much they can actually enhance the taste and satisfy those cravings.
It's a great idea. I love experimenting with spices.
Yeah.
Okay, we've talked a lot about managing cravings, but what about those times when we do indulge? Is it the end of the world if we have a slip up?
Absolutely not. Remember, it's a journey, not a destination. One slip up doesn't erase all your progress. The key is to just get back on track and not let it discourage you. It's all about learning and growing.
Yeah, that's such an important point. It's so easy to get caught up in that all or nothing mentality, but that's just not sustainable in the long run, is it? It's all about progress, not perfection, right?
Exactly. And remember, the more you practice making, healthier choices, the easier it will become. It's like building a muscle.
So the key is to be patient with ourselves, celebrate our successes, and learn from our slip-ups. It's a process, and it takes time. This deep dive has been such an eye-opening experience, honestly. We've learned so much about the hidden world of sugar, but more importantly, we've discovered that we really do have the power to kind of, to break free from its grip and create a healthier, happier life.
It has been such an incredible journey, and I'm so glad we could explore it together.
Me too. And I hope that our listeners are feeling as inspired and motivated as I am to make, more mindful choices about sugar and really embrace a more balanced approach to their diets.
Remember, knowledge is power. Now that you know the truth about sugar, you can make informed choices that really support your health and your well-being. It's time to take control of your sugar story.
That's right. So go forth, fellow deep divers, and spread the word. Let's continue to explore and to learn and to make choices that empower us. This has been amazing.
Until next time, stay curious.